Katiyo.
Mangwanani, Maswera say Makadini. My name is Farai Katiyo, aka Baba Katiyo. If you're new to the Katiyos, welcome to this segment which is called Cook and Chat. My wife usually does this segment, but today it's me, baby. So we want to show the women that men can do it too, that men can cook as well. But today I'm doing a super easy meal to encourage my fellow men and young boys there. Honestly, this meal is so easy. Anyone can do this. So it's gonna be quick and easy to follow. And I'm hoping that if there's a guy who, is not a very good cook or hasn't been able to cook something, you can watch this and try it out on their family, on their wife, etc. So my Katiyo is not here today. She actually went to visit her parents. So today is Sunday. She went to visit her parents yesterday on Saturday, and she'll be coming back home tonight. So I think it'll be really nice if she can come back home and there's a meal prepared for her. I don't know what you can call this meal, but I'm going to be cooking the famous boerewors from South Africa, some rice, some soup, and some steamed veggies. Very simple, very, very, very simple. So the first thing we want to do is prepare our meat, because I think our meat and our rice are probably the two things that are going to take up the most time. So I've taken out our boerewors, our sausage, and I'm gonna be putting it in the air fryer. You see how the foil situation is. You can tell that this foil is definitely a guy thing. But hey, other guys are very neat, but I'm just not very good at that sort of thing. Easy. Our sausages are in the air fryer. You can make them on the pan. You can put them in the oven. I'm choosing the air fryer. Whilst that's happening, I'm gonna start to prepare my rice. Guys, I actually cook a lot. I know you people think that I don't cook that much. The problem is there's no one to record me to show the evidence of my cooking. And so today I've decided to record myself. And don't judge me on this meal. This is a quick and easy meal. But sometimes I do the most in the kitchen. So we want to do our rice. Again, I'm using a rice cooker. Some people cook rice on using a pot. But I prefer the rice cooker method. We probably need just 1 cup between the two of us. I'm feeling like making white rice. No brown rice today. I'm gonna be unhealthy. So when it comes to white rice, I learned from my mother that it's you don't want to put too much water when it comes to white rice. White rice is fairly quick. So I have a 1 cup here. Bam, put that in there. I will also add a little bit of salt onto that, so it actually tastes all right and not too plain. That's about a decent amount of salt. Now I'm gonna put some water in the kettle, some hot water for our rice. General rule with rice is 1 cup rice, 2 cups water. But like I said, with white rice, you don't want to put too much water, otherwise it does not end well. So if you're using a cup like this, you want to say maybe 1 3/4-ish cups of water, not necessarily the 1:2. As compared to if you're making brown rice, which needs quite a bit of water. I'm just getting my onion here. So while we are waiting for the water to boil, the kettle to boil, I thought I would talk about a few things. Yeah, so my drink of choice is juice. We don't drink no alcohol in this family. Usually when I'm cooking by myself and not recording, I'm usually playing some music, usually Zimbabwe music, usually worship, or something like that. If it's not worship, it's probably some love songs or something. Yeah, but anyway, whilst we're waiting for our water, I just want to share a few things because I've got time to kill, and maybe someone might learn from some of the mistakes I've made in my short-term marriage. You know, one of the biggest mistakes I think I made and my wife made initially is that everyone comes into the relationship with a lot of expectations. I came in expecting her to be a certain way, to act a certain way, for us to do certain things, and she probably came in with the same amount of expectations. And I think expectations, honestly, in all honesty, they're both good and bad. It's always good. I think it's good to expect things, but at the same time, we have to realize that expectations very often come from a very selfish place. What you are saying by "I expect this" is essentially "I want this, and I will not tolerate anything outside that." So you can already see how that can cause problems in the context of marriage. Our water is... And because of that, a lot of people end up getting very depressed or disappointed because, not necessarily because they married the wrong person or a bad person, but because they've married someone who has failed to live up to their expectations. Bear in mind, sometimes we expect a lot from people without even telling them that we're expecting stuff from them. So you are assuming that this person will give you what you are after, yet this person has no idea. I've put my rice in the rice cooker. So I've put 1 cup of rice with 1 3/4 cup of water, because it's white rice, so having too much water does not benefit us. So the rice is ready, the sausages are cooking. As of now, I'll switch on my air fryer. Put about 10 minutes on it, because I like to turn and always make sure your appliances are actually connected because I'm seeing that the rice cooker is not plugged in at the back, and we'll put it on white rice. So while that's happening, I'll start to prepare our soup, and then we can start the chatting process of cook and chat. As you know, me and my wife have been married for quite a short, we've been married for a few months now, but we have known each other for about 7 years. Yeah, about 7 years in total. And, you know, it was a pretty good dating or courting experience, I won't lie. I'm very blessed to have met her. And not once did we ever break up or go on a split or take a time out, or because, you know, things just moved well. That's the good thing about being Christian, I suppose, and marrying someone with the same, not only beliefs, but same commitment, level of commitment to those beliefs. Anyway, enough of that. So now we move in together. And one thing that, you know, people would always say, oh, you know the real person once you move in, you know the real person, blah, blah, blah. To be honest, nothing really changed. I'll be quite honest. I think the person I knew whilst dating is sort of still the same person I lived with. I think we were just so transparent with each other. No one really lied about anything. I think I knew her whole life story and she knew mine. So nothing really changed from that, just the minor things that you learn. So for example, I grew up in my home, she grew up in hers, and I grew up in a house with boys and one female, which is our mother. So our mother liked the kitchen to run a certain way, which has been drummed into me for years. So I move in with Tatenda, who wants her kitchen run a completely different way. I'm using this small pot for the soup. So one thing you have to realize when you enter a relationship or when you enter marriage with someone, you are marrying a person who was raised in a completely different way from you. He had a completely different family dynamic to you. So there are certain things and there are certain experiences and things that you went through that person probably has never experienced or gone through in their entire life. And you are meant to come together and move in unity. So there's gonna be a bit of bumping heads. And I remember one time my wife actually telling me that you have to realize that I grew up in a different home to you. My father raised me a certain way that he felt was the right way, and he molded me into the perfect daughter in his eyes. Now I've come in to live with you, and you are your own man with your own set of values. And for you to expect me to catch on to your values quickly is unfair, because I've already grown up in a completely different way to you. So I think as husbands, even as wives, we need to be very patient with each other in that regard. You're marrying someone who comes from a completely different way of life. The problem is now you've got your expectations here, and this person also has their expectations. So this person is expecting a husband to look like their father, and I'm expecting my wife to look something like my mother. And because and our expectations obviously come from our background and how we've been brought up. So a lot of people get very disappointed when they come into a marriage expecting their husband to look a certain way or their wife to look a certain way based on how they saw their mother or their father relating. So it's very important to realize that sometimes the person you're marrying does not look like your mother or your father, but that does not make them a bad person, right? They're different in their own way, but their difference is actually a good thing, and that's what actually attracted you to them in the first place. So it's good to be aware of the differences and to not try to force a person to fit into your mold, so to say, when it comes to marriage. Another thing I will stress is this. Some of these things that we want to see in our spouses will take time, because like I said, this person was raised in a different home from you, and they grew up in a different way from you. They have a different set of rules and values from you. So for example, I am now 29, and for 28, since we've been married for about a year, for 28 years, I've lived a certain way. And for Tatenda to expect me to become the ideal man for her as soon as she marries me is an unrealistic expectation. She has to understand that I've lived a certain way for 28 years. So for me to change, it's going to take time. And she's lived a certain way for 25 years. So I can't expect her to just change like that. I'm just adding the tomatoes. So it's important to throw time in life, on our problems in life, and our problems in marriage. Like I said earlier, you are two people coming together and expected to coexist. You might have been married for 5 years, you might have been married for 3 years, you might have been married for 10 years, you might have been married for a few months. Regardless, I've been married to Tatenda for a few months. But I have to understand that Tatenda lived a certain way for 25 years before she married me. So I can't expect her to undo 25 years of programming in the space of a few months. You can't expect your spouse to undo 20 to 30 years of programming in 5 years or 3 years or 2 years or even 10 years of marriage, because some of our programming comes from a place of hurt and scars and etc. Some of our backgrounds are very tough. The more toxic the background is, probably the harder it would be to change the behavior. So it's always important to look at our spouse and even ourselves through the lenses of time. To always throw time and see, okay, this person lived this way for such a long time. Is it fair for me to expect them to change in the time I've known them? Where in the time I've known them and the time where I've been highlighting this problem to them is much shorter than the time they lived blind or oblivious to this problem. Our sausages are still cooking. As you see, I just flipped them. Our soup is looking pretty good. So now I'm gonna make the frozen veggies. Again, some people boil them, some people steam them, some people cook them in the pan. So that's sort of how my wife likes it. And she likes them with a little bit of butter. So that's how I'm gonna make them. I would like to make a confession. One of the things I've struggled to learn how to cook, because I used to cook time to time when I was living at home with my parents. Soup, my soup was a tragedy. It would always be too watery. And I always failed to get it, to have the right consistency. A tip that I can give to anyone who's new to soup, obviously, you start with onions, then you add the tomatoes, then you add your soup. You want to boil it for a little bit. Then after it's heat up and the tomatoes look well cooked and the onions look cooked, you want to turn down the heat and make it very low, so it just kind of simmers. I've seen that's actually the best way to get your soup looking how it should be looking. Those are my 2 cents. You take them or leave them. Let us see what the finished meal looks like. I'm not feeling that hungry, to be honest. By the way, before I eat, I always make sure I clean the kitchen. I just don't like to leave the kitchen looking a mess. So I prefer to actually, so yeah, we've got our meat scissors here. I'm just gonna add a few pieces of the sausage, like so. I prefer to have my soup on the rice. My wife is one of those people who doesn't want their food touching, which I don't understand because it's gonna touch in the mouth and it's all gonna go to the same place, right? But anyway. Got my veggies here. Ta-da! Then we'll leave the rest for the wife. I think you might be able to see it better from this camera and that camera. Yeah, my presentation is not always the best, but trust me, the taste will not disappoint. Yes! Woo! I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode of Cook and Chat. Yeah, try this recipe. For the ladies, I know you can cook. Most of you can cook way better than me, so possibly you can try this one on a day when you're just feeling a bit lazy. For the men, nice and simple, hard to mess up. Take care. Hope you've been blessed, and have a good one. Much love from the Katiyos.